I've got 4 lovely condition Whitman folders here, kindly sent to me by Peter Moore. Thank you very much, Peter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all my pennies from these tatty old albums that I've got and put them in there. Only coins I find in penny hunts go in these albums. So I buy batches of coins, hunt through them, and anything I find goes in these albums, nothing else. I don't want to do them in order, 1860 to 1967. That would be a bit boring, wouldn't it? So I've made a little randomizer. Put all the information in there and it'll pick one coin at a time at random. So you don't know what's coming up and nor do I. So the first one is 1912 and that's going to be in there. There's the 1912 in the album, 48 million minted. So let's get that out and have a look. Well, there we are. It's not the best quality, is it? I'm bound to have found better ones than that in my hunts. What I'm supposed to do is upgrade these albums before I put them down on the giveaway boards when I do my giveaways. Regular viewers will know what I mean by that. But anyway, that's the first one. Let's put it in the album. There it is, 1902 to 1929. Lovely condition album. Oh, sounds good. Right, what are we looking for? 1912. There it is. So let's put that in there. Lovely tight fit. Right, the next one, 1912 H. 1912 with the H mint mark. Hope it is going to be random. There it is, 1912 H. H for Heaton, Ralph Heaton and Son. There it is. Not too bad, that one. You can clearly see the H mint mark there. Even though there were many more of the 1912s and the 1912 H's minted, I tend to find more of the H mint mark. Probably people used to hang on to them because of the mint mark. Right, let's put that one in there. There we go. I'm only joking, I've straightened them up. Okay, Mr. Randomizer, what you got for us? 1905. Oh well, we're sticking with the same album. There's the 1905, 17.7 million. Let's have a closer look. Well, there it is. There's a bit of detail on the shield, which is quite hard to find on these. Edward ones are usually very worn, but I'm sure in the future we'll find a better one than that. Check the 1905s to see if there's a small 0, but that looks the same size as the other digits to me. There we are, British pennies, Edward VII, 1901 to 1910, so 1905 will be there. There we go, that was another tight fit. But people say with these albums, once you put them in, if they're a tight fit, they're almost impossible to get out again. But they're not, because if we look at the other side, for instance, that one, you can see that. Can you see it there? Very thin. So all you do, it's very tough. All you do is push from the other side. This is the one we just put in. Just push gently from the other side. They come out really easily. Okay, what's next? The 1874 aged head with the H mint mark. Alright, so that'll be in this tatty one here, 1860 to 1880. There's a few gaps in it. Right, 1874. So we've got 1874 and 1874 H there, and if you come up here, it says with aged head of Victoria. And again, we've got 1874 and 1874 H. There's 4 spaces for the 1874 in these Whitman folders, and the one that's been picked is the 1874 with the H mint mark and the aged head. There it is, pretty worn condition. You can just see the H mint mark below the date, and I can tell this is the aged version by looking at the brooch. You can only see half of the brooch there. I'm going to have to show you this on nice condition coins. Okay, this is an 1874. And I can tell that's the young head because you can see all of the brooch. All of Victoria's brooch can be seen. Now let's compare it with this one, which is the aged head. And you can see, when I zoom into that brooch, just a tiny bit of it is sticking above the rim. And that's how I find the easiest way to tell. Another way to tell, this one here, which is the young head, the B of Brit is almost touching Victoria's head. Whereas on the aged version, there's definitely a clear gap there. Here's an image of the two, young head on the left, aged head on the right. The neck is a bit thicker on the aged head as well. I don't think they made her look much older. She would have been 55 years old in 1874. So the aged head with the H mint mark will go there. Let's press that button. 1967. There we are, 1967. That's the last date minted for circulation. Very nice condition, this one. Didn't do much circulating, if any. That'll be the first one for this album, 1930 to 1966. But there is a place for the 1967, even though there's no mintage figure. 654 million were minted of this one. That's the highest minted of any pre-decimal penny. We'll get that one in there. A penny dated 1970 was produced, but that was proof only, not meant for circulation. And the next one, 1870. So that'll be this one. There it is, the best one I found in a hunt. Not in bad condition at all for 1870. I find quite a few of them, but they're usually terrible condition. Yep, that's not too bad. You can see the whole of Victoria's brooch. That means by just looking at the obverse, you'll know that it's either 1874 or before. Just under 5.7 million of those are minted. So let's get that in there. Try and get it straight. Lovely. Always look out for the cannonball error on the 1870. A raised dot at the top of the ship and to the bottom of the letter Y. These dots appear on other pennies, but very rare on the 1870. So look out for that one. And the next one, 1946. So that'll be this one then. There's a 1946. 66.8 million were made. There it is. Not too bad. Quite a lot of detail on there. It's not the dot penny. There's no little dash after the E. Let me show you one. This is the 1946 dot penny, as it's known. And in this condition, it's selling for around 35 to 40 pounds at the moment. But this is just the common 1946. Let's put it in its place. There we go. And the next one, please. 1891. There it is. Let's take a closer look. I'm going to say that's nice condition for 1891. A lot of detail on the shield. Probably not so much on the obverse, but all the legends very clear. Let's put it in the other album. 1881 to 1901, so that's the first one in here. Another lovely snug fit. Right, what's next? 1860 beads. That is probably the worst condition coin that I've got in these albums. That one there. 1860 round beads. Just visible down there that it's beads rather than teeth. Just about see Victoria. Right, let's put that in there. Freeman's list over 20 different varieties of the 1860 penny, and I suspect there's many more. Only 3 different ones in these Whitman folders. Okay, what's next? 1918. So we've gone from one of the worst condition coins I've found in a hunt to one of the best. Yep, I remember finding this little beauty some time ago now though. Look at that, still got its luster on there. It's a common 1918, minted at Tower Hill in London. No mint mark on there. Even on coins in this condition, you can see the ghosting, the image of the king's head coming through the coin. What a lovely condition that was to find. Over 84 million 1918s. Can we get that in there straight? That'll have to do. Lovely. People are probably saying, well, how much is it worth? Well, it's an impossible question to answer, really. It depends who wants it at any one time. I suggest do a search on eBay. There we are, 1918 penny. And then, crucially, go down here on the left and click on sold items. And then you can scroll down and see what they're selling for at the moment in the condition of a coin you've got. There's one there. That's a bit like mine, isn't it? That might be in better condition than mine, actually. So that's £17. So I'd estimate mine then to be about £10 or £12. I keep saying lovely, don't I? But that really was lovely. Okay, what's next? 1863. There it is. I don't think that's too bad for 1863. Lots of varieties to look out for. Narrow date, wide date, 3/1, slender 3, and you can get die numbers under the date. Little die numbers. Very valuable coins if you find one of those. 28 million is the estimated mintage figure for the 1863. I say estimated because a lot of these 1860 pennies, the batches were weighed after they were minted, and then the mintage figure just worked out from that. The 1869, for instance, says 2.5 million. Well, there probably was 2.5 million pennies minted in 1869, but they definitely weren't all dated 1869 because they are very hard to find. And the next one, 1888. 1888. Not too bad. There's a few scratch marks on there though. A few light scratch marks. 1888, known as the Jack the Ripper coin. Jack the Ripper's reign of terror on the streets of London in 1888. That's the second one in this album. I hope you like your pennies. This is going to be a long video. 5.1 million of those. Maybe I should have done one video per album. Too late now, let's get on with it. 1881 with an H mint mark. There it is. The 1881 with the H mint mark, minted at the Heaton Works in Birmingham, is easier to find than the one without the mint mark. Not bad condition. I've certainly found much worse than that. 3.76 million of that one were minted. And you can see the one without the H mint mark, 2.3 million. Where we go next? 1871. A low minted coin, probably even lower than that in reality. Very hard to come by. 1871 in that condition is not bad actually. Quite pleased with that one. The date's easy to read, even though the 8 seems to be weakly struck. In its place it goes. What's next? 1864. That's another hard to find penny. The mintage figure is definitely lower than that. I'm quite happy with the 1864 in this condition. In a higher grade, very, very hard to find. Also look out for the crosslet 4, which looks like that, which is even rarer. But this one, as you can see, is not. Let's put it in its new home. 1922. There it is, 1922. Strangely shiny that one, isn't it? I don't think it's been cleaned though. Oh, it's like that. Check the trident. Is the middle prong touching a bead? Yes it is, so it's not the rare one. This is what you're looking for. The middle prong doesn't touch that trident. That's reverse C and that's the rare type. Let's get 1922 rehoused. 16.3 million. And this actual coin, a 1922 reverse C, sold in 2021 for £3,900. Worth looking out for. Right, what's next? 1918 H. Okay, I'll leave that there because it's the same one, and we need this one. There it is. We've got a mintage figure there of 3.6 million, but that includes the H and the KN. I think 2.5 million, the actual mintage figure for just the 1918 H. Yeah, there it is. I suppose it's not too bad for an H mint mark. Ralph Heaton and Son, Birmingham. I'll put the mintage figures for the George V mint mark years on the screen now. There, if you want to make a screenshot of that. Okay, let's put this one in its place. Yep. And the next, 1919 KN. Looks like we're sticking to the same album, so I've got to move that to there. 1919 KN, there it is. Not the clearest, is it? I've definitely given better quality ones than that away. £3 or £4 to pick one up in that condition. Right, let's put it in there. And the next, please. 1928. Oh, it's the same album. I should have left it out, shouldn't I? 1928. 50,178,000 of those are minted. Yeah, it's not too bad. Do need to look out for a better one though. In it goes. And the next one. 1919. Same album again. It's supposed to be random. 1906 popped up there as well, didn't it? I must have hit the button twice. Anyway, 1919 first. There it is. Quite a bit of detail on there for 1919. Not bad at all, that one. A massive mintage figure. Over 113 million of that one. Going there. And we know the next one is 1906. Still the same album though, 1902 to 1929. 1906, nearly 38 million were minted. I must have found a better quality one than that. It's not the worst, not the best either. And I'll put that in there. If you've watched this far and you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button for me. It's absolutely free. And while you're there, click the like button. That really helps. Thank you. Okay, what's the next one? It's 1935. At least it's a different album. Back to this one now. 56,070,000. That's what I'd call average condition. I'm bound to have passed by better ones than that. It's not too bad though. But for now, it's going in there. No, I'm not wearing gloves. Go away. Right, what we got? 1892. The folder's just about holding together. There it is, 1892, 10.5 million. I think that's all right for 1892. Not bad at all. There you go, Britannia. There. And the next one is Elizabeth Obverse Type 2. There it is. There's a place in these Whitman albums for the different obverses of the coins. And obverse 2 on the Elizabeth is anything that's not 1953. The words Brit Om were removed from the coin. So this could be anything from 61 onwards. This is 66. We'll have a closer look at the lettering when we get to 1953. And we'll put it in there. Oh, that was a lovely snug fit. Right, what's next? 1964. We've not got to move far. Another massive mintage figure, 153 million. Very nice condition, as you'd expect with these 60s ones. Not done a great deal of circulating. So we'll put it in there. What's next? 1921. So there we go. There's 1921. It's not that good, is it? It's got a little dent on the top there. I'm sure I would have found a better 1921 than that in a hunt. It's even got a little hole there, which is definitely damage. It'll have to go in there for now. 129.7 million, so another massive mintage figure. Right, what's next? 1861 with L.C. Wyan. Well, I know I haven't got that one. I will at least not be able to read it. It's very hard to read that unless you've got an uncirculated coin, or very nearly. Let me show you an image of one. That's one there. And if I zoom right in, you can see the initials of L.C. Wyan, the coin designer, right at the bottom there. Almost impossible to see in a worn coin. I don't know why they were included in these Whitman albums, really. Okay, we'll carry on. Young Head Obverse. Right, that's obviously Victoria. So we need to go to the very beginning of the first folder, and there is the obverse, the Young Head Obverse, and that'll be the Aged Head Obverse, which we looked at earlier. Okay, let's go back to that one. There it is, the Young Head Obverse. We can see the whole of the brooch at the bottom there, so we know it's going to be between 1860 and 1874. 1863, this one. None of the rare varieties. I've almost certainly found a better condition young head than this, but we'll upgrade it in the future. Put it in there. Next one, 1948. Nearly 64 million, 1948s. It's a strange condition, that one. I don't think it's been cleaned. Oh, I don't know. A few lines on there, isn't there? Could have been cleaned. Oh well. Let's rehouse it for now. Next one. 1926. Just under 4.5 million. That's one of the lower minted George V pennies. Oh, there it is. I've certainly found better ones than that. Is it the modified effigy? No, it's not. Look at the colon between the words Gras and Brit, and it's pretty central. This is a modified effigy. The portrait of the king has been tweaked a little bit. Very hard to see, but the easiest thing to see is look at the words Gras and Brit again, and you see the colon is almost touching the A. And that's the difference. Common one at the top, colon is central, modified effigy, nearly touching the A. The modified one is not too difficult to find. I think I've found about 5 or 6 in these hunts so far. They sell in this condition for about a tenner. Right, this one's a common one, and it's going in there. Right, come on then. 1865/3. I don't know why there's a space for these in the Whitman albums. As you can see, I haven't got one. It's where the number 5 has been minted over the top of a number 3. There's an image. You can just about see the 3 underneath the 5. That's, as I say, very hard to see. I don't know what the prices would be. Have you bought one? Have you sold one? Let me know in the comments. 1861. I find quite a lot of 1861s, but they're usually in terrible condition. They did circulate for 110 years. Let's have a look at this one. For 1861, that's not bad at all. You can read everything on there and on the obverse. I wonder how many people got one of these pennies when it was new in 1861, turned it upside down and said, I wonder what sort of things will be happening in the year 1981. Well, things like this. As with the 1860, there's loads of different varieties for the 1861. It was only the second year of mintage for these bronze pennies, so they were probably still experimenting with different dyes. So I'm not going to go into that in this video. Just check, but I don't think LCYN was ever on there. I will emphasise again, these come from penny hunts. I don't buy them individually. I buy batches of coins, batches of pennies, usually about 1,000 a time. And I pay around £60–65 for them. So that's not too bad. People are saying early 1971, 1,000 pennies was only just over £4. That's inflation for you. Get in there. And the next one is 1867. That's a bad one. Ugh.
What the hell is even that?
Yeah, it is pretty terrible. 1867. It looks like it's been bent and then straightened again. Just about read the date, but the less said about that, the better. Nearly 5.5 million, so I'm confident we'll find a better one than that sometime. 1913. There it is. Yeah, that's okay. Quite a bit of detail on there. There are a few different varieties of the 1913. A couple of different obverses and a couple of different reverses, and a combination of both. I'm not going to go into that in this video though. I will make a separate video about that one day. In total, 65.5 million were minted. Now we've got 1885. 7.1 million. Let's have a look at that. Not too bad. I've found worse, and I suspect I've found better and not put it in the album. But this one can go in its place, which is there. 1897, so that would be this one. 20.7 million. There it is. That's a Veilhead Victoria. Not too bad for 1897. There's no raised dot between the O and the N. This one does have the raised dot. You can see it quite clearly there. This 1897 dot penny, even in this condition, was selling for about £60 now. But this is a common one, and also the tide level there is low. So the low tide is common for 1897. So look for the high tide variety, which is much harder to find. Let's put that one in there. And what's next? 1945. 79.5 million of those. Let's have a closer look. Certainly a lot of detail on there. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Just check there's not a double 9. Nope. Right. Oh, that went in there beautifully. There's one with the double 9. Difficult to see. But if you bought one of those or sold one, let me know, because I don't know what they're going for. Next we have 1920. 1920. Nearly 125 million were put into circulation. I think that's in quite nice condition for a 1920. And the obverse is quite nice too. Look for the ultra rare one, a big gap between the A and the B where that colon is. But sadly that is a small gap. There it is, 1920. And that is followed by 1966. There's a 66. Nice condition as you'd expect. But having said that, I've probably found a better one. Over 165 million of those. Okay, that's followed by 1882 with the H mint mark. 7.5 million of those. There we are, that's not too bad. Little scratch there, but never mind. And if you recognise that scratch, this is the coin I used earlier to demonstrate the aged head with a small bit of brooch there. Made at the Ralph Heaton and Son Works in Birmingham. A few 1882s were made at the Royal Mint in London, so they don't have the H mint mark, but they are very, very rare, so look out for that. Let's put it in. And what we got next? Vale Head obverse, so that's obviously Victoria. There it is, Vale Head or Old Head, whichever you prefer to call it. And to find one in that condition in a hunt, I'm very happy. 1901, but that doesn't matter because the obverse stayed the same between 1895 and the Queen's last year in 1901. It's just the head side we're interested in, so in it goes. And next we have 1874 Young Head. So that'll be that one. Very worn condition this one. Oh yeah, look at that. You can see there's no H mint mark. And can we see the whole of the brooch? Yeah, just about see the whole of the brooch there. So we know it is the Young Head. And the gap between the B and the Queen's head is very small. So that one will go in there. Ah, I said Queen's head. I need a pint now. Maybe later. Right, what's next? 1879. So we're staying with this one. Just over 7.5 million of those. I don't think that's too bad for 1879. Nice clear date. Looks like a dot there next to the 7. I've noticed that before. Let me put it under the microscope. No, I think it's just a bit of corrosion. There are some other little white spots around as well. I think that's all that is. There's a few varieties to look out for with the 1879. There's some wide dates and some narrow dates and different gaps in between the numbers. But what I would like to find is this one. It's a known error, has been recorded. Obviously it's a die crack, a piece of metal has leaked through. At least that's what I think's caused it. Known as the space shuttle error. For obvious reasons, looks like a space shuttle's being launched from the lighthouse. Have you got one of these? I'd love to know. No idea what it's worth. That one will go there. And now we need a 1916. That'll be in there. 86.5 million, and that looks in nice condition. Yeah, very nice. You don't usually find 1916s in that condition. It's not the recessed ear type. The ear is flat at the top there, so there will be no broken tooth between Brit and Om. This one is a broken tooth type. See, the ear is recessed into the coin, and right at the top there between Brit and Om you can clearly see one of those teeth is broken in half. Very easy to find, this one, very common. But the 1916, very hard to find in that condition. That's nice, so I'll put that in there. Now 1869. That is not a good one. Very hard date to find, but I know I've found better ones than this. I'm not put in these albums for some reason. Surely I can find a better one than that. But it is one of the hardest dates to find. I'll probably get 10 quid for it, even in that condition, but that's horrible, isn't it? Right, what's next? 1911. Ah, yes, I remember finding that one. A really nice condition, 1911. They don't turn up in penny hunts in this condition very often. Very, very nice. For 1911. It's not the hollow neck penny, or the Goby X as it's called. No hollow in the back of the king's neck there. The one on the right is the Goby X, or the hollow neck penny, and you can see that hollow quite clearly in the back of the king's neck. Another way to tell if you've got a Goby X, let me just freeze this image. If you follow the eye of Brit straight up, it points between two teeth, right between the middle of them. But on this one, the Goby X, you can see the eye points directly at that tooth. There's a few other things to look for to tell if you've got the Goby X. Go and have a look at my videos, search for 1911 penny and click on that. And this one can go in its new home right there. And the next one, 1874 aged head. So that'll be in here. It's going to be that one. 1874, no H mint mark. There it is. Just see a little part of the brooch, so you know it's the aged head. We'll look out for a nicer one than that. Right, we carry on with 1877. 9.6 million, but that one is an absolute cracker. Look at that, what a lovely coin. Victoria. Lovely detail on it as well. Lovely, lovely. I keep saying lovely. Great detail on the ship and the lighthouse. Probably about 10 or 12 pounds for that, maybe more. It's a wide date. If it was a narrow date version, it would be worth thousands in that condition. Let's put it in there. Oh, that's a great fit. Right, next, 1950. There it is, the only one I've found in a hunt, some time ago now. One of the lower minted pre-decimal pennies. eBay selling price, roughly about £15 average for this one. Something in this condition. There we go, just 240,000 of that one were produced. Now what we got? 1860 teeth. So that will be that one. Toothed beads, it says there. It's quite a vague description. As I said, there's loads of different 1860 varieties. But we can see their teeth around the edge rather than beads. But for an 1860 in a penny hunt, it's not bad. We'll put it in there. If there's anything you want to add, if there's anything you think I'm getting wrong, please put me right in the comments. I'm not proud, I want facts. Right, what's next? 1878. Oh, right, so we need to fill that one. Mintage figure 2.7 million. Not too bad. A bit of corrosion around the date there. It probably would clean away, but I'm not going to do that. I'll leave it like that. There we go. And that is followed by 1938. That's a nice one. Pretty much uncirculated, that one. Really love it when they turn up. Little bit of discoloration there. That doesn't spoil it too much. Quite heavily minted though, over 121 million. Still lots of spaces to fill. What's next? Edward VII obverse. So that's the one. Victoria's son, King Edward VII. So this one's 1902. It could be anything from 1902 to 1910 because the portrait didn't change. Put that one in there. And it's closely followed by 1890. 1890, I do find a lot of those. I suspect that mintage figure there of 15.3 million. I think it could be higher than that. Yeah, a lot turn up and they're usually very worn, but this one's not too bad. I'm quite happy with that. In quite nice condition. I'll put that one in its place and then look for 1896. So it's this album again, and it's over this side. There it is. That is in nice condition. Yeah, that was a great find. Great condition for 1896. Usually they're very worn. Let me go and get a normal one for you. Wait a minute. 1896 room, that's up in the attic at the end of the corridor. And the lights are going up here as well. Oh, what the hell is that? Phew, I fought my way through and I got one. Now that is the state you usually find 1896 pennies in. So finding one like that was fantastic. 24,147,000. And now we have 1915. There it is. It's not in the best condition, but I seem to think it might be a recessed ear, if I remember correctly. Yes, it is. It's a recessed ear. Quite easy to find a 1916 recessed ear, but much harder to find a 1915. So has it got a broken tooth up there? Oh yes, look at that. There's the broken tooth right at the top. I might get £10–15 for that, even more. Yeah, not the best condition, as I said, but it is a recessed ear. 47 million in total of the 1915s, but I don't know how many recessed ear ones were minted. Does anybody know? Let's press a button for the next one. 1939. Right, 1939. Okay. 55.5 million of them. It's not too bad. Probably got a little bit of dirt on it that will come off. I bet I missed a better one, but yeah, it's all right. It's okay. Let's put it in the new album. Yeah, it'd be nice to find one as good as a 1938, but in it goes. I thought I'd put it back in the same album because I recognise this mark here, but if we look on the other album, it's exactly the same. So that's to do with the printing. Now I want to know if all these Whitman folders have got the same mark on the 1930 to 66 albums. Have you got one? Does it have that mark in exactly the same place? What's next then? 1883. Right, where's 1883? It's going to be in that one. Yeah, there it is. That's not in good condition at all, is it? I know I've found better ones than that. Oh well, something to look out for. 6.2 million of those are minted. And now we've got 1875. There it is, 10.7 million nearly. Quite a few different varieties of the 1875. This one is a wide date. You can get narrow dates. Some were minted with the H mint mark, and there's a couple of dot errors to look out for. This is one where you can see a raised dot next to the I in Victoria. And this one here, in lovely condition, is known as the cannonball error. There's a raised dot. It looks like a cannonball being fired from the ship. I've made a separate video about this one. That's not an H mint mark there, it's just a little bit of damage, I think. If anybody has bought or sold any of these two dot errors recently, please let me know. So this one can go in there. It's lovely to have this 1860 to 1880 Whitman folder. Very hard to find, almost impossible in this condition. And we'll put the 1875 in there. What's next? 1881. That'll be the first one in there. So that'll be the 1881 with no H mint mark. It is very worn, this one. I don't think there's an H mint mark. There's a bit of damage in the middle of the 8s, but that's in the wrong place. It's possible there's a mint mark at the bottom there, but for now I'll put it in there. That's what I really need to find a better example of. 1927 next. Nearly 61 million. Yeah, that's quite nice, that one. Quite nice to find in a hunt. A little bit of dirt in that O, but I'll leave that there. Yeah, quite pleased with that one. 1919H, which is that one. Yeah, it's okay, but I've definitely given better quality ones than this away. Nice clear mint mark there though. There's a total mintage figure of the H and the KN of 5.2 million, and I think it's an estimated 4.5 million of the H mint mark. Just two more to swap over on that page. What's next? Aged head obverse. Right, back to Victoria. Type 2 coins with aged head. There it is. Probably found better than that. We can just see part of the brooch so we know it's aged head. What year is it? It's 1876 with the H mint mark, but that doesn't matter. All we're interested in is the head side. Let's put that in there and go and find 1886. A mintage figure of just over 6 million. Probably just above average condition to what I find in these hunts. Nice clear date. Yeah, that's where you're going to live now. In there. 1932. 8.25 million of that one were minted. Again, I would call that average condition. Still, that means there's lots of upgrades to look out for still. Okay. And next it's 1914. 50.8 million of the 1914. Doesn't look very nice, does it? I did read somewhere that 1914s are hard to find in high grade. Maybe they were weakly struck in the first place. But we'll rehouse it for now. And now we want 1907. There it is. 1907. 47.3 million. Now that's not bad. That is definitely above average for a 1907. There's a couple of varieties to look out for. This is the normal one where the bottom of the 7 points between those two beads, and the rarer one, or the narrow 7, points directly at one of the beads. But yeah, for 1907, that's nice. Okay. Now we need 1901. 1901 was the last year of Victoria's reign, and 22.2 million were produced. Certainly very nice for 1901. Well, lots of detail on the obverse too. Yeah, very happy with that one. Okay. In you go, and now we need a 1918 KN. Yeah, I don't think that's a very good example. A little bit worn, isn't it? You can see the ghosting through there quite clearly. KN is not very clear. I definitely need to find a better one than that. 3.6 million of the combined H and KN, but I think it's just over 1 million of the KN. Kings Norton. There we go. What's next? 1910. Right, it's Edward. So that's back to this one again. 29.5 million 1910s. There it is. Yeah, it's okay, I suppose. Maybe just above average condition for a hunt find. There we go, 1910. And we're moving on to 1894. 1894, 3,883,000. I'm supposed to check for upgrades when I do my hunts in these albums, but I keep forgetting. And people tell me, oh, you found a better one than that. Bit of corrosion on the edge. But you can read the date clearly. I don't think it'll be difficult to find an upgrade for that. Okay, oops, upside down, let's put it in there. And now we've got 1860 with LCY, well, I know I haven't got that. Yeah, I haven't found one of those, at least not one I've been able to read anyway. Right, next. 1866, oh, we stay on the same album, and we're going to move to there. Nearly 10 million of that. I think that's a good find for 1866. I found much more worn ones than that. Quite a lot of detail on Victoria, especially on her hair. Let's rehouse 1866 and move on to 1931. 19.8 million. What's that one like? No, that's not very nice at all, is it? But I've definitely got much better 31s than this in Hunts, without a doubt. Let's put it in there and move straight on to 1862. 1862, 50.5 million. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Yeah, lots of detail on that. A little bit of markings around there. It could have been in something like a damp drawer for years. I don't think it's a metal detecting find. Look at the detail on the lighthouse and the ship. Very nice. As with the 1860s and 1861s, lots of varieties to look out for. You've got an 8/6 where the 8 has been minted over the 6. There's a low 2 where the 2 has dropped down and is much lower than the other numbers. There's a 2/1 where number 2 has been minted over the number 1. There's narrow and wide dates. There's the Victoria era where a G has been minted instead of a C. That's a bizarre one. There's the B/R era where the B has been minted over an R. And you can find an example where the font of the halfpenny has been used instead of the penny. I have made a video on the 1862 penny. I think I need to update that video a bit. And what is quite common on the 1862 is a slight rotation error. Remember, the monarch is always correct. Let's rotate it. Yeah, just a little rotation there. Got to be one of my favourite finds, that one. Okay, now we've got 1963. Nearly 120 million 63s. Yeah, not done much circulating. Although I'll have to find one without those marks on it. Shouldn't be too difficult. So let's put that one in there. And now we need 1947. There it is, 52.2 million were minted. Yeah, I remember finding this one. Lovely condition. I think I found more than one. Was it 2 or 3 in the same batch like this? It's got a little stain there, which is a shame. The detail on it is fantastic. Let's put it in there. It's back to Elizabeth, 1962. Yeah, there it is. Always going to find nice 62s in Hunts. Again, very little circulation. 157.5 million 1962s. 1944 now. 42.6 million. And I definitely need a better example than that. But for now, it'll have to do. 1875H next. So I'll be in this one. It's got a low mintage figure, 752,000. Not very nice condition, but it has got an H mint mark, as you can see there. Let's put it in there. It would be very nice to get an upgrade for that one. What's next? 1887. Okay. 5.3 million of that one, but it's not very nice, is it? Sure, I've found better condition ones than that. I must concentrate more.
Yes, concentrate.
But in it goes for now. Okay, what's next? 1930. There it is. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, it's okay. Probably just above average. Little mark there. Just above average for 1930, I would say. 29 million of those. Now what we got? George V obverse, right. Well, there's a George V obverse, but you may know there's 2 different obverses for George V. Well, this is the one I've got on my album. This is the first design, the first portrait. What's this? This is 1912 with the H mint mark, but that doesn't matter. We're just interested in the obverse. And then from 1928 onwards, the portrait changed. It was much smaller. And that finally cured the ghosting problems they were having. And this one's from 1935. But only one place in the album for obverse, so I'll put that one back. 1912H. There we are. Let's carry on with 1899. 1899, so that'll be in there. We're getting there. That's what... We're getting there. That's what... I can't say that's what's left. We're getting there. These are left in this folder. 1899 is that one. 26 million. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Yeah, that's quite nice. Lots of detail on there. I usually find 1899s are very worn. Well, that's nice. You can find wide and narrow dates with this one. Same with the 1896. And in the new folder it goes. Now we look for 1951. Well, I've never found a 1951 in a penny hunt. Well, it's not surprising, only 125,000 were minted for circulation. So let's move on. 1908. 31.5 million of those were minted. I did find a really nice 1908 in these penny hunts. If you watch these videos regularly, you will remember it, but obviously I didn't put it in the album. I must have put it on the giveaway board because this one is, well, pretty average, isn't it? Probably even below average. There's a few different 1908s to look out for. They're very subtle differences, so I'll make a separate video about that sometime. So we'll put that in its new place and move on to 1940. There's a 1940. That's okay. George VI. This one has got a double line above the date, a double exergue line. You can find them with single lines. The single line ones are slightly harder to find, but I wouldn't class them as rare. 42 million 1940s. I did say slightly harder to find for the single line, maybe a little bit harder than that. This folder's filling up nicely as well. What's next? 49, so I've got to fill that one now. Oh yes, I remember finding this one. Really nice. That's done very little circulating. Lovely detail there. Look at Britannia. She looks very happy. That's splendid quality. There can't be many around in that condition. Right, 1961. We're staying with the same folder. Another nice condition one. Yeah, it's okay. Little mark up there by the trident, but very acceptable. 1961 has a mintage figure of 48.3 million. George VI obverse type 1. There it is, George VI type 1 obverse 1937 to 1948. What year did I use for this? 1938. There you can see Ind Imp, which is Latin or abbreviated Latin for Emperor of India, and that didn't appear on the later coins. I'll put that in there and then I'll compare them when I get to type 2. Right, now we need 1868, and I know that's a bad one. 1,182,000 of them, but look at that, terrible condition. Let's get it out. Oh dear. Can only just about read the date. That's probably the worst condition one of the lot. Look at that. Well, it'll have to go in there for now. There we are. Right, 1929 now. That looks like a good one. Yeah, really nice condition. A little bit of luster still on there as well. I remember finding this one. Yeah, that was a nice find. Okay. 1904. Nearly 13 million of the 1904. Another one I would say would be in average condition. Actually, probably just above average. I'll put the 1904 in there. And then look for 1880. So that will be the last one in that album. 3 million minted. So what's the condition of that one? I don't think that's bad for 1880. They usually are very, very worn. As you can read everything on that. That's not too bad at all. A little bit of damage there. In it goes next to the 1879. Is it going to go? Oh, yes. Right, next, 1965. 121 million of them. Yeah, not done a lot of circulating, obviously, for 1965. Okay, that's going to be a tight fit. Oh, very tight. And, back again now to 1902. 27 million 1902s. That is quite nice for a 1902. There's Edward. That's the first year of Edward VII's coinage. Came to the throne in 1901. This is the more common high tide version. The tide level there is where Britannia's legs cross. There's no space for the 1902 high tide and low tides, just the one space. Put that in there. And go on to 1903. That's easy, next door, just there. There it is. Quite happy with that one. That's a good condition for a 1903. It's the common closed 3. It curls over at the top of the 3 and the bottom, curls under at the bottom as well. And there on the top is an open 3. You can see it's quite flat on the top of the 3 and doesn't curl under so much. And that is known as the open 3. And I think about probably 60, 70 pounds for that now. They're becoming very collectible. Nearly 21.5 million of the 1903s. That's a common one, but that can go in there. That's nice condition. Is anybody still watching? This is a long video.
Is there anybody out there?
Okay, we move on to George VI obverse 2. There it is, type 2 obverse 1949 to 1951. Let's compare it with this type 1. There we are. One on the left says Ind Imp at the end of the legend, and the later one admits that. George VI ceased to be Emperor of India from, I think it was August 1947, but the Ind Imp still appeared on the 1948 coins. And type 2 was from 49 to 51. And now 1937, so we're staying with that one. Yeah, that one's quite nice. Yeah, nice detail on this coin. Quite a bit of luster still on there. Let's put that in there and move swiftly on to 1953. Quite low minted, 1.3 million. I've spoken to a lot of penny collectors, and the mintage figure is on top of the coin sets that were released for that year. And how many coronation sets were released in 1953? That's quite unclear. I did ask the Royal Mint if that mintage figure included the coin sets or not, but I haven't heard back from them. But I don't think it does. I think that is a circulating amount. That's what I think. Let me know what you think. 1936 now. 154 million of those are minted. And as you can see there, it says issued during the reign of King Edward VIII. I don't know why they would issue so many George V pennies during the reign of his son, Edward VIII. Maybe they knew he was going to abdicate at the end of the year. We'll put it in the new album. And swiftly move on to 1909. Only 3 left in this folder. There's 1909. Oh, that will need an upgrade. Let's check it's not the 1909 dot penny. No, there's no raised dot to the right of the N. But this one is a 1909 dot penny. See the raised dot there? Caused by a die crack. A little crack in the die, a little bit of metals poured into that hole, causing a raised dot like that. Very easy to see on this one. And even in this condition, I think it'd cost you around £50 if you wanted to buy one of those. But this one's not the dot penny. 19.6 million 1909s were produced. And now we want Elizabeth obverse type 1. There it is, so that'll be 1953. There it is, 1953. And it contains the word Brit Om. all the Britons. On the right is the type 2 obverse that we looked at earlier, and you can see Brit Om does not appear on the legend. Queen of all the Britons was thought to be inappropriate in the evolving British Commonwealth, so they removed it. Also, by using big capital letters like that, looked very cluttered, didn't it? Too much writing. We'll put type 1 in its place, and then go and get 1934. There's 1934. Nearly 14 million were minted. That looks in quite nice condition. Oh yeah, a lot of detail on there. A little bit of lustre still around there. Oh yes, very nice one that. Pleased with that one. If I put it in there, that means this Whitman album is complete. Apart from the 1951, which we hope to find soon. So we'll put it in. 1865 next. There it is. It says 8.6 million both types, and that includes the 8/3 version there, which I haven't got. And for an 1865, I'm going to say that's pretty good. Usually can't read any writing at all on them. Yeah, quite a clear date. And certainly that 5 hasn't been minted over a 3, has it? No. We'll put that one in there then. Okay, what are you going to pick next? 1917, First World War penny. There it is, a massive mintage figure. Nearly 108 million of those were produced. I remember finding this one. Very nice detail for a 1917. Look at that. Not much wear on there. Looks like that could be a little bit of a die crack. I don't think it's a scratch. Could even be a lamination error. We'll put that in there. Not many to go now. What's next? 1873. 8.5 million 1873s. Always happy to find an 1870s penny where you can actually read everything. Not bad at all. The 3 seems a bit weakly struck. Oh, we'll put that in there. And move on to 1895, first year of the Valehead Victorias. That has a mintage figure of 5,395,000. There it is. Not too bad. Probably found better ones than that. Quite a shock to the public, I should think. From 1894 it was like that. 1895 the portrait went like that. This has the 1mm gap between the trident and the P, and this is the 2mm gap variety. Let me compare them. And there you can see the gap between the trident and the P is twice the distance, probably a little bit more actually. So the common one that's in the folder is the small gap, and the rarer one, or scarce, it's not really rare, is the 2mm gap, the bigger one. And you could probably get a 2mm gap one like this for about a £5. There you go. That's where you live now. Now we're looking for 1874H Younghead. Oh, that's the one. Well, I can read the date, 1874, and see the H mint mark, but that's terrible condition. I can see the whole of the brooch, so I know it's the Younghead, and a small gap there. Yeah, that desperately needs an upgrade. But that's all 4 versions of the 1874 in place. 1898 now. 14,296,000. I would say that's just slightly above average condition for 1898. Surely I've found superior ones. In it goes. And that's followed by 1872. That's it. The best one I've found in a hunt. Or at least the best one I've remembered to put in the Whitman folder. Quite a big gap between the 7 and the 2 there. But different gaps and different widths are common in the 1860s and 1870s. Different shaped 2s and 7s have also been discovered. Let's put it in there. 8.5 million of those were minted. And now let's look for 1884. 11.7 million 1884s. Very nice detail. Yeah, I remember finding this one. Very pleased with that. It's got some white chalky stuff in the date there, which I'm tempted to clean out. I'll probably leave it like that. Yeah, it's one of my better finds, I think, by far. In your new house you go. Right, must be getting near now. 1876H. Just over 11 million of that one. Let's have a closer look. Maybe just a wipe with water would clean some of that, but I'm not going to do that. That's probably a little bit of corrosion on there. I've got good detail on Victoria. There we are, 1876 with the H mint mark. Some people have said they've found an 1876 without the Heaton mint mark on it. Every example I've seen of the 1876 that's supposed to have no mint mark, the images have been in awful condition, very worn. But until I see a really nice condition 1876 without an H mint mark, then I'm going to believe that they were all minted at the Heaton Works, Ralph Heaton and Son in Birmingham, and none were produced at the Royal Mint. Let me know what you think about that. Okay, let's move on to 1893. 8,160,000 of the 1893s. Yeah, that one's okay. I don't mind finding 1893s in that condition. Quite nice detail on the shield. You can go in there. And waiting for us now is 1900. 30.7 million. That one is quite nice. Yeah, like that. 30 million of them, but I find it very hard to find a 1900 in condition like this. I haven't found many. There we are. 1900. 1889 next. 1889. I find a lot of 1889s, but this is one of the best. Everything's readable. Nice clear date. 12.5 million it says there. I suspect it could be more than that because they do crop up quite a lot. Right, what's next? Oh, that's it. All the names have been chosen. We've done it. And there they all are. All 4 folders full. Well, full with the ones I've got. There's those 3 there, the LCYN ones and the 5/3. And the only other one missing is the 1951. Lots of nice ones, but lots and lots of upgrades to find. Well, thanks everyone. If you watched all this, you're my heroes. Thank you very much. Thanks again to Peter for sending me these. Fantastic. And these now, my spares. I'll start filling those again. And if you want to watch any more penny videos, there's one on that I did on the 1863. That's quite interesting. Okay, I'll wake Sue up now and we'll go down the pub.